Hey guys, tonight we are going to explore a topic so profoundly monumentally dull that it's practically a sleep aid in narrative form. The daily administrative grind of a mid-level court official in China's Han Dynasty. Imagine a world without spreadsheets, email, or even coffee. Your job is to read, copy, and file reports written on heavy bundles of bamboo all day, every day. You are a human photocopier powered by millet and existential dread. Honestly, the sheer weight of the bamboo slips you will be lifting is probably more excitement than you can handle, so I'm not entirely sure you'll make it through the night. The risk of dying from secondhand boredom is considerable, so, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. It's always cool to see how far this gentle nonsense travels. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The sound that pries your eyes open isn't a sound at all at first. It's a pressure, a subtle shift in the deep, inky blackness of your sleeping chamber. The paper covering the window lattice has gone from absolute black to a shade of very, very dark gray. And then the sound arrives. Distant yet piercing, a rooster, somewhere in the labyrinthine alleys of Chang'an, has decided it's time to register its first official complaint of the day. For you, it's not a rustic call to a day of wholesome farm labor. It's the starting pistol for another marathon of monotony. It is the fifth watch, well before sunrise, and your day has begun. You don't move. For a blissful moment, you entertain the fantasy of just not. Of rolling over on your thin straw mat and pulling the coarse hemp blanket over your head. But the fantasy dissolves as quickly as it forms. You are a dutiful, if unenthusiastic, cog in the immense, intricate machine of the Han Empire. Specifically, you're a junior administrator in the Ministry of Ceremonies, one of the 9 ministries that handle the actual business of the government. Your work isn't glamorous. You don't advise the emperor or lead armies. You handle paperwork concerning ancestral rights and the upkeep of imperial tombs. It's exactly as thrilling as it sounds. A shiver runs through you that has nothing to do with the pre-dawn chill. It's the cold dread of routine. With a soft groan that is swallowed by the silence of the house, you push yourself up. Your wife and children are still deep in slumber in their own rooms. The servants won't stir for another half hour. This quiet, lonely time is yours, and you use it to prepare for the performance of being an official. You slide your feet off the low sleeping platform and onto the cold, packed earth floor. First things first, you need to wash. You shuffle over to a wooden basin holding yesterday's water. It's frigid. Dipping a rough cloth into the basin, you scrub your face and hands, the cold a sharp and unwelcome jolt to your system. Next to the basin is a small ceramic pot containing a coarse powder. This is zhao jia, the ground-up beans of the honey locust tree. You sprinkle some into your palm, add a bit of water, and work it into a thin, sudsy paste. It's the closest thing you have to soap, and it smells faintly of dirt and disappointment. Historians still argue whether the regular use of such saponin-rich materials was a widespread practice or reserved for the slightly better-off urban classes like yourself. To you, it's just the stuff you used to get yesterday's ink stains off your fingers. Now for the uniform. Getting dressed is a multi-stage process of layering, wrapping, and tying that makes putting on a modern 3-piece suit look like throwing on a t-shirt. First comes the thin inner garment of undyed hemp, then a longer cross-collared robe, the pao, made of a slightly finer weave, and finally, the stiff outer robe, dyed a somber, respectable dark brown, the color befitting your rank. Each layer is secured with a sash, tied with a precise, practiced knot. You do this in the near dark, by muscle memory. Any deviation, any sloppy fold, would be noticed by your superiors. It's all part of the game. Appearance is everything, even when the substance of your work is nothing. The final crucial piece is your official cap, the guan. It's a rigid black hat held in place by a long pin, a bit like a corporate ID badge signaling your access level in the imperial hierarchy. Without it, you're just another man in a robe. With it, you are a representative of the Son of Heaven's boundless bureaucracy. You secure it carefully, making sure it's perfectly straight, Your reflection in a small, polished bronze mirror is a dim, distorted stranger staring back at you. He looks tired. He looks like he's already had enough, and the sun isn't even up. The rooster crows again, more insistent this time, as if to say, "Are you not processing reports yet? The state of the imperial tombs is degrading by the second." You sigh. Time to go face the kanji. You step out of your personal chamber and into the small central courtyard of your home. The air is still and heavy with dew. Across the courtyard, the kitchen is showing the first signs of life. A single flickering flame from an oil lamp casts a weak, buttery glow. A young servant girl, barely awake herself, bows silently as you pass. Your breakfast is waiting for you on a low table in the main hall. It is, as always, a bowl of millet congee. It's a thin, gray, watery porridge, steaming slightly in the cool air. There are no condiments today, no slivers of pickled vegetable or salted fish to give it flavor. It is sustenance, pure and simple. You sit on a floor mat, your back straight, and eat with a ceramic spoon. Each mouthful is the same, bland, warm, and vaguely gritty. It's the culinary equivalent of your job. You finish quickly, rinse your mouth with a cup of lukewarm water, and stand. There is no time for lingering. The great drum in the city's central tower will sound soon, signaling the official start of the day and the opening of the palace gates. To be late is not an option. It would mean a formal demerit, a mark of shame recorded on a bamboo slip and filed away for eternity, a black mark against your long, tedious career. So you eat your gray porridge and prepare to join the silent river of officials flowing towards the imperial heart of the city. Your wife emerges from her quarters, already dressed, her hair neatly pinned. She helps you with a final adjustment of your sash and brushes a non-existent piece of lint from your shoulder. No words are exchanged. None are needed. This ritual is as ingrained in your lives as the rising of the sun. She hands you a small, flat bread wrapped in a cloth, your midday meal. You give her a slight formal bow, she returns it, and you turn to the outer gate. This tender, silent moment is perhaps the most emotionally charged interaction you'll have all day. It's a bit like being handed a parachute before being pushed out of a plane, if the plane were parked on the ground and your destination was an identical, slightly more important-looking plane next door. The heavy wooden gate of your home groans as you pull it open and step out into the alley. The darkness is no longer absolute. The eastern sky is blushing with the faintest hint of violet and gray. The air is thick with the smells of a waking city. Damp earth, the sharp tang of wood smoke from 1,000 kitchen fires, and the unmistakable acrid odor of the night soil carts making their rounds. This is Chang'an, the capital of the world as you know it, a sprawling metropolis of nearly 250,000 people, all enclosed within massive walls of rammed earth. Your home is in one of the city's 160 wards, each a mini-walled community. The gates to your ward have just been opened by the night watch, and you join a slow-moving trickle of other dark-robed figures emerging from their own gates. They are your colleagues, your neighbors, your fellow bureaucrats. You see Lao Wang from the Ministry of Finance and Young Fei from the Imperial Secretariat. You don't greet them. An almost imperceptible nod is the only acceptable acknowledgement. It is the Han Dynasty equivalent of putting in your earbuds to avoid conversation on the morning train. Everyone is locked in their own private sphere of quiet resignation. You trudge along the wide, straight street. Archaeologists and historians debate the exact composition of the city's thoroughfares, whether they were paved with stone, covered in gravel, or were simply vast avenues of meticulously compacted earth. All you know is that after a rain, they are a treacherous sea of mud, and on a dry day like today, every passing ox cart kicks up a fine layer of loess dust that settles on your robes and gets in your teeth. The city is arranged on a perfect grid, a testament to imperial planning and an obsession with order. The streets are long, straight, and unforgivingly repetitive. You pass gate after gate, wall after wall. The only sounds are the soft scuff of 1,000 cloth-soled slippers on the dirt road, the distant rumble of market vendors setting up their stalls, and the growing cacophony of those roosters. Remember the one that woke you up? It seems he's recruited an entire army and they're all clearing their throats at once. The journey to Weiyang Palace is long. You walk for the better part of an hour, a silent commuter in a silent procession. This is your time to prepare your mind, to arrange your thoughts for the day ahead. What reports are due? Which superior's favor must be curried? Did you remember to bring the right set of brushes? You run through a mental checklist, a litany of trivialities that have somehow become the entire architecture of your life. Occasionally, a high-ranking minister will pass by in a covered chariot pulled by 2 horses, its wheels churning up the dust you are forced to breathe. You and the others on foot press yourselves against the walls, heads bowed until he has passed. It is a small, daily humiliation that reminds you of your precise and rather low position in the grand scheme of things. As you get closer to the center of the city, the streets become wider and more crowded. The air grows heavier. The destination is near. Looming ahead, seeming to touch the lightening sky, are the towering walls and gatehouses of your destination, the Weiyang Palace complex. It is a city within a city, the nerve center of the empire, and your office. The procession of dark-robed officials slows to a halt as you reach the eastern gate of the Weiyang Palace. The name literally means endless palace, and standing before it, the name feels less like a poetic flourish and more like a simple statement of fact. This isn't just a building, it's a sprawling ecosystem of power, a walled-off section of the world dedicated entirely to the administration of everything under heaven. Historians will one day calculate its area at nearly 5 square kilometers, a space several times larger than the future forbidden city of Beijing or even Vatican City. To you, it's just the office, but an office that requires a significant commute after you've already arrived. It's the universe's least funny joke. The gate itself is a fortress. 2 immense watchtowers loom over a central portal, their tiled roofs curving gracefully upwards at the corners, terminating in large ceramic ornaments shaped like the tail of a fish. These are called chiwei, and they are supposed to protect the wooden structures from fire by invoking the power of water. A nice thought, but they mostly just serve as convenient perches for crows who look down on you with what you can only assume is pity. Sinologists continue to debate the precise function of the various watchtowers along the palace walls, whether their placement was purely defensive, part of a complex ceremonial cosmology, or if they aided in astronomical observation. You've always suspected their primary function is to make you feel small. Mission accomplished. You line up in a queue that is surprisingly orderly. The silence that permeated the city streets now becomes a heavier, more formal quiet. The air crackles with unspoken rules. A dozen imperial guards stand motionless, clad in lacquered leather armor and armed with long halberds. Their faces are impassive, their gaze fixed on some point in the middle distance. They are human extensions of the walls they guard. As you approach the gate, a stern-faced captain looks you over. You reach into your sleeve and produce a thin, rectangular piece of polished wood. Your pass. Your name, rank, and ministry are carved into its surface in neat characters. The guard takes it, his rough fingers brushing yours for a moment. He compares the characters on the pass to a list on a bamboo scroll held by his aide. This is the ancient world's version of swiping a keycard, only with more judgment and the ever-present threat of being detained for having a slightly smudged character on your pass. He grunts, a sound that means, you are who you claim to be, and your continued existence is provisionally tolerated. He hands the pass back and you are waved through the shadowed archway of the gate. The moment you step inside, the sounds of the city vanish, replaced by a profound, echoing emptiness. You are standing in a courtyard so vast it feels like an optical illusion. The ground is covered in fine, white gravel, raked into perfect, mesmerizing patterns. In the distance, across this sea of stone, you can see the first of the great audience halls, its massive form perched atop a rammed earth platform. The scale is intentionally overwhelming, designed to strip away your individuality and remind you that you are here to serve a power infinitely greater than yourself. It's very effective. Your walk is far from over. Your office in the Ministry of Ceremonies is in a less glamorous building, tucked away in the northeastern corner of the palace complex. To get there, you must traverse a network of covered walkways that flank the major courtyards. These long corridors protect you from the sun and rain, but they also serve to channel you along prescribed routes like a rat in a very elegant, very large maze. You join a stream of other officials, your soft-soled shoes making a gentle, rhythmic shuff 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 on the wooden planks of the walkway. The procession begins to splinter as you pass different administrative blocks. The tax officials from the Ministry of Finance, looking perpetually worried, peel off to the west. The stern-faced legalists from the Ministry of Justice turn down a path to the south. Each ministry has its own cluster of buildings, its own little fiefdom within the imperial city. You continue your trudge, the bland congee you ate an hour ago already a distant memory. The flatbread in your sleeve feels miles away. This daily mandatory walk is the emperor's secret wellness program, ensuring his bureaucrats don't become too sedentary before a long day of sitting down. The air inside the palace walls is different, cleaner, quieter, and utterly devoid of spontaneity. There are no peddlers, no stray dogs, no children playing. There is only the rhythmic shuffle of feet, the rustle of silk robes, and the distant, unseen presence of the Son of Heaven. You pass perfectly manicured gardens that no one is allowed to enter and gaze at ornamental pools where carp swim in lazy, uninterested circles. It's all beautiful, sterile, and profoundly boring. After another 15 minutes of walking, you finally see it. A long, low, two-story building, identical to a dozen others you've passed. It's distinguished only by a small, unassuming plaque next to the door bearing the characters for Ministry of Ceremonies. You have arrived. The journey is over. The real stillness is about to begin. You step across the raised threshold into the long, dim hall of the Ministry of Ceremonies. The air inside is cool and still, thick with the scent of old wood, drying ink, and the faint, papery aroma of thousands upon thousands of bamboo slips. Sunlight struggles to pierce the paper-covered lattice windows, casting the room in a soft, hazy twilight. The vast emptiness of the outer palace grounds is gone, replaced by a sense of cluttered, organized confinement. Rows of low, dark lacquered desks are arranged with geometric precision, each with a woven mat for sitting. Most are already occupied by officials just like you, their dark robes blending into the shadows. But you can't go to your desk yet. The first task of the day is not administrative, but social. A delicate and utterly mandatory performance of respect. Your immediate superior, Director Pan, is already at his slightly larger desk at the far end of the hall. He is a man whose face seems to have been carved from a particularly unyielding piece of wood, his expression fixed in a permanent state of mild disapproval. He hasn't noticed you yet. This is your chance. You walk towards him, your steps measured, your posture perfectly erect. You stop a respectful 10 paces from his desk. You wait. He continues to examine a scroll, ignoring you. This is part of the dance. To speak before being acknowledged would be an act of unthinkable rudeness. After a moment that stretches into a small eternity, he looks up, his eyes sweeping over you without a flicker of recognition. This is your cue. You perform a deep, formal bow, your hands clasped before you, your torso bending from the waist to a perfect 90-degree angle. You hold the position. Director Pan, you say, your voice a neutral, respectful monotone. This subordinate offers you greetings for the morning. He makes a small, almost imperceptible noise in his throat. He says. This single syllable is a complex piece of communication. It means I see you. I acknowledge your continued employment. Do not bother me further. He has already looked back down at his scroll. You may now rise. You do so slowly without any sign of relief, and back away from his desk before turning. The first and most perilous ritual of the day is complete. Historians and sociologists of the period still debate the emotional toll of such rigid etiquette, whether it was an internalized and therefore painless part of the social fabric, or a source of constant, low-level psychological stress. As you walk away from Director Pan's desk, you feel the familiar release of a tension you didn't even realize you were holding. Now for the next tier of the hierarchy. You exchange slightly less formal bows with the other section heads, men of your own rank or slightly above. These greetings are accompanied by murmured pleasantries about the pleasant weather or the auspicious alignment of something or other. It's the Han Court's version of small talk, utterly devoid of content but thick with meaning. A bow that is too shallow, a greeting that is too familiar. These are the tiny missteps that can curdle a career. It's like navigating a minefield where all the mines are passive-aggressive social slights. Finally, As you approach your own workspace, the junior scribes and assistants who are already there sorting bamboo slips see you. They immediately stop what they are doing and bow to you. It's your turn to be the impassive statue of authority. You offer them the barest of nods, a slight dip of the chin that says, yes, carry on with your infinitesimally less important work. And with that, the great morning circle of bowing is complete. You reach your designated spot, the familiar ache from your long walk settling into your bones as you gracefully fold your legs and kneel on the woven mat. Your workspace is a microcosm of your life, ordered, constrained, and functional. The surface of your low desk is bare, save for your essential tools. You unroll a bamboo slat case, revealing a set of brushes of varying sizes, their wolf hair tips fine and sharp. Beside them, you place your inkstone, a heavy, dark slab of slate with a shallow well. There is a small bronze pot for water, a block of dried ink made from pine soot and animal glue, and a small, sharp knife. This knife is your most important tool, aside from the brush itself. While its primary purpose is for trimming the brush hairs or sharpening wooden styluses, its most frequent use is as an eraser, to painstakingly scrape away errant characters from the surface of a bamboo slip. The very character for your job, Li, is thought to be a pictogram of a hand holding both a brush and one of these knives. You are not just a writer. You are a corrector of errors. You pour a few drops of water into the inkstone's well. You pick up the inkstick, and you begin to grind. You are still grinding the inkstick against the stone, a slow circular motion that has become second nature. The friction of carbon against slate, lubricated by the water, creates a pool of thick, black ink. The quality of your work depends on its consistency. Too thin, and the characters will be faint and runny. Too thick, and it will clog the fine hairs of your brush. This meditative, repetitive action is the last moment of calm you will have for hours. You are so focused on the motion, on the growing pool of perfect blackness, that you don't notice the junior scribe approaching until his shadow falls over your desk. You look up. He is a young man named Wei, barely 20 years old, his face still holding a trace of youthful optimism that this place will surely extinguish within a year. He is holding a bundle in his arms, a truly monstrous thing. It's a collection of bamboo scrolls, bound together with thick hemp cords, and it looks as heavy as a sack of grain. He bows deeply, avoiding eye contact. "Esteemed master," he murmurs, using your formal title. "Director Pan has assigned the tax registers from Ba Commandery for your verification." He sets the bundle down on the floor next to your desk with a heavy, solid thud. It's a sound of finality, a sound that says, "There goes your morning." You give him the slightest of nods and he scurries away, leaving you alone with the beast. Ba Commandery. That's in the southwest, a remote mountainous region hundreds of miles away. You've never been there. You couldn't point to it on a detailed map. Yet for the next several hours you will become the world's leading expert on its agricultural output for the third quarter of last year. With a soft sigh that is mostly air, you begin to untie the cords. The bundle falls open, revealing not one but 5 thick scrolls. Each scroll is composed of dozens of individual bamboo slips, each one about a foot long and half an inch wide, the standardized size for official records. The slips are strung together with 2 horizontal cords of silk, allowing them to be rolled up for transport and storage. This is the Han Dynasty's version of a spreadsheet, and it has no search function, no autofill, and it can give you splinters. You select the first scroll and carefully unroll it across your desk. The sheer weight of it makes the wood of your low table creak in protest. A wave of unfamiliar scents rises from the bamboo. The dry, dusty smell of the slips themselves, the faintest hint of mildew from their long journey in a damp storeroom, and the earthy aroma of the ink used by a scribe whose name you will never know. Your task is verification. The Han Empire runs on taxes, primarily the land tax, a percentage of a farmer's grain harvest, and the poll tax, levied on every individual and often paid in cash or bolts of silk. Economic historians continue to debate how effectively the central government could actually verify these provincial reports. Was your job a crucial check against local corruption, or was it a grand bureaucratic illusion of oversight? You suspect it's a bit of both. You dip your finest brush into the freshly ground ink. Your eyes begin to scan the first column of characters. The script is competent but slightly sloppy, the work of an overworked provincial clerk. The first slip lists the county and district. The next slip begins the household records. Household of Wang Shu. 4 members. Land cultivated, 22 mu. Assessed grain yield, 30 shi. Tax owed at 1/30th, 1 shi. You read the characters, your lips moving silently. Now the checking begins. You don't have an abacus. That wonderful invention is still a few centuries in the future. All you have is your mind and a set of calculating rods, which are essentially a box of fancy sticks. You perform the calculation in your head. Is 1/30th of 30 shinis in fact 1 shi? Yes, this one is easy. You make a tiny, almost invisible check mark with your brush on a separate slip of scrap bamboo you use for notes. You move to the next entry. Household of Li Jian. 6 members. Land cultivated, 35 mu. Assessed grain yield, 48 shi. Tax owed at 1/30th, 1 6/10 shi. Again, you do the math. Your brow furrows slightly. The calculation is correct. You make another tiny mark. On you go, slip after slip after slip. Household after household. An endless parade of families reduced to numbers, their lives' work distilled into a column on a piece of wood. The names blur together. The numbers begin to dance before your eyes. The sun has risen higher and a beam of light now falls across the hall, illuminating the dust motes that drift lazily in the air. Time seems to slow down, each second stretching out, filled only with the soft rustle of bamboo and the silent work of your mind. After an hour, you find one. An error. A scribe listed a tax of 2 shi on a yield of 55. Your heart gives a little flutter, a sad, pathetic little pulse of excitement. This is the highlight of your day, possibly your week. A mistake. You carefully take your scraper knife. With the precise, steady hand of a surgeon, you place the edge of the blade against the incorrect character and begin to shave away the top layer of the bamboo, scraping the ink off fiber by fiber until the original surface is clean. Then, you dip your brush, take a deep breath to steady your hand, and paint the correct character in its place. You are a warrior, a champion of accuracy, a silent guardian against the chaos of bad arithmetic. And you still have 4.5 scrolls to go. You are deep in the world of Ba Commandery's finances. 2 more scrolls are done, a graveyard of tiny check marks growing on your scrap slip. You have found 3 more errors, each one a little jolt of validation in the vast gray sea of your morning. You are just unfurling the 4th scroll, a truly monstrous document listing silk cloth taxes, when a shadow once again falls over your desk. You don't need to look up to know who it is. The quality of the silence in the hall has changed. The subtle rustling of bamboo and the soft scrape of brushes have ceased. Master, the voice of Director Pan is as dry and brittle as an old leaf. You place your brush down carefully and rise from your kneeling position to a low crouch, your head bowed. Director? Leave that, he says, gesturing dismissively at the tax scrolls. The hours of work you've just completed, the meticulous checking and correcting, he waves it away as if it were a pile of dust. A new imperial edict has arrived. It requires immediate transcription for the provincial circuit inspectors. The task requires a skilled hand. 10 copies. No errors. He places a single slender scroll on your desk. It is made not of common bamboo but of finely polished wooden slips, and it is tied with a yellow silk cord, the color of the emperor. This is a master copy, direct from the Imperial Secretariat. Being chosen for this task is technically an honor. It's a sign that your calligraphy is considered among the best in the ministry. It feels, however, like being the honored guest chosen to repaint a very long, very important, and very, very boring fence. Yes, Director, you say. He is already walking away. You are left staring at the yellow cord. The half-verified tax records of Ba Commandery lie in a messy heap on your floor, a forgotten testament to your interrupted labor. Someone else will finish it. Or perhaps it will be bundled up and sent back to the archives, your partial work lost forever. It doesn't matter. You reverently untie the yellow silk. You unroll the edict. Your eyes scan the text. and any lingering hope for something interesting, a distant war, a scandal in the court, a new imperial consort, dies instantly. The edict is a clarification on the official protocols for the annual suburban sacrifices. It specifies, in excruciating detail, the exact number of jade discs to be used, the precise color of the ceremonial oxen must be unblemished earth yellow, and a minor 2-degree adjustment to the orientation of the altar. It is a document of such profound bureaucratic minutiae that it could be used as a weapon to bore enemy soldiers into submission. And you have to copy it 10 times, perfectly. The first step is to prepare the materials. You cannot use the standard rough-hewn bamboo slips for this. You go to a supply cabinet and retrieve a set of fresh, high-quality slips. They have been shaved to a smooth, almost glossy finish, their pale wood grain a perfect canvas. You count out the exact number needed for 10 copies. Back at your desk, you carefully rule faint, vertical guidelines on each slip using a thread coated in chalk dust, ensuring your columns of text will be perfectly straight. The script used for official documents is the clerical script, Lishu. It is a more efficient and legible script than the ancient seal script it replaced, a key innovation for managing a sprawling empire. But legibility means standardization. Your own personal flair, the subtle quirks of your brushwork, must be suppressed. You are to become a machine for replication. Paleographers still debate the degree of calligraphic freedom individual scribes possessed. From where you are kneeling, the answer feels very simple: none. You take a deep, cleansing breath, a ritual to steady your hand and focus your mind. You dip your brush into the ink, charging it with just the right amount of black liquid. You read the first line of the edict from the master copy. The august emperor, who models his conduct on the patterns of heaven and earth, issues this decree to all his subjects. You commit the 9 characters to memory. You turn to the first blank slip. You lower the brush. The wolf hair touches the wood, and for a moment, there is only the brush, the slip, and the character you are about to form. Each stroke must have the correct weight, the correct angle, the correct starting and ending point. A dot is not just a dot. It has a head, a body, and a tail. A horizontal line is not just a line. It must have life, a subtle strength. You paint the first character Huang, for emperor, then Di, then Jing, then Tian. You work in a state of absolute concentration, your breathing slow and even. An entire universe of skill and discipline is poured into these 9 characters. You finish the line. You look at it. It is a perfect mirror image of the master copy. It is flawless. It is also completely devoid of soul. It is the beautiful dead shell of a written language. You pause, place the brush down, and reread the next line of the master copy. Then you pick up the brush and begin again on the second slip. This is the new rhythm of your day. Read, memorize, dip, paint. Read, memorize, dip, paint. The sun crawls across the sky. The sounds of the hall fade into a dull hum. You are no longer an accountant for a distant province. You are a human printing press, and your print run has just begun. An hour passes, or maybe it is 2. Time has lost its edges, smeared into a continuous ribbon of intense focus. You have completed the first copy of the edict. Each of the 47 bamboo slips is a testament to your unwavering control, a perfect replica of its counterpart in the master scroll. It lies to your left, a monument to meticulous effort. You're halfway through the second copy when you feel it, a change in the drag of the brush. The ink is growing thick and stubborn. You glance down at your inkstone. The once deep pool of black liquid you prepared this morning has become a shallow, sludgy puddle. The edges are starting to dry and the consistency is all wrong. To continue with this would be to risk a blotched character, a line that is too thick, a stroke that is not crisp. On a provincial tax record, such an imperfection might be tolerated. On an imperial edict, it would be a disaster, an insult to the emperor himself, and a fast track to a reprimand from Director Pan. A deep internal sigh echoes through the chambers of your soul. Your rhythm is broken. The state of intense concentration so difficult to achieve has been shattered. You must stop. You must make more ink. It is like being a marathon runner who is told at the halfway point that they have to stop and cobble their own shoes for the second half of the race. First, you must clean the stone. You carefully carry the heavy slate, along with a small jug of clean water, to a designated washing basin in a corner of the hall. You pour a little water onto the stone almost surface and begin to gently rub away the old residue with your fingers. The sludgy, half-dried ink feels gritty and unpleasant. You rinse and repeat over and over until the slate is returned to its original unblemished dark gray. You dry it with a soft cloth, ensuring not a single speck of dried ink or lint remains. Any impurity could ruin the new batch. The entire process is slow, deliberate, and utterly infuriating. The 9 unfinished copies of the edict seem to be watching you from your desk, their blank wooden faces a silent accusation. Back at your station, you place the pristine inkstone before you. You unwrap your ink stick. It's a standard government-issue stick, a simple black cuboid made of compressed pine soot and animal glue. There are no fancy additions here. No musk or camphor to give it a pleasing fragrance, a luxury reserved for wealthy scholars or the imperial family. Yours smells only of soot and glue. It is the scent of work. You pour a precise amount of fresh water from your bronze dropper into the stone's well. Archaeological analysis of ink residues shows great variation, leading scholars to debate whether each scribe had a personal, intuitive recipe for ink consistency, or if they followed a prescribed formula. For you, it is simply a matter of feel, a knowledge stored in your hands, not your head. And so you begin to grind again. The circular motion, which felt meditative in the deep calm of the pre-dawn, now feels like a punishment. Your wrist, already tired, begins to ache. The sound of the stick abrading the stone fills your personal space, a soft, grating shh. It is the sound of time being turned into useless dust. Each tiny particle of carbon that clouds the water is a second of your life you will never get back. A second you are not spending finishing this Herculean task. You fall into a state of dull, mechanical repetition. Grind, grind, grind. Your mind, freed from the intense focus of calligraphy, begins to wander into bleak territories. You think about the sheer volume of ink you have ground in your lifetime. Enough to fill a river, probably. A slow, black, melancholy river. You wonder how many characters you have written. Millions? Tens of millions? And for what? To ensure an ox is the right shade of yellow. The despair mentioned in the outline isn't a dramatic tearing of robes affair. It's this quiet, grinding, aching certainty that this is all there is. A life spent preparing the materials to perform a task that is, in itself, the very definition of tedium. The sound of the grinding is the official soundtrack of your career. Slowly, agonizingly, a new pool of rich, dark ink begins to form. It glistens under the light from the window. It is perfect. It is ready. And your brief, miserable, mandatory break is over. Time to return to the endlessly demanding, silent world of the Emperor's decree. Your brush is charged with the fresh, perfect ink. Your mind is cleared, your hand is steady. You are poised to resume your work on the second copy of the Emperor's edict, to dive back into that state of deep, soul-numbing concentration. You are just about to touch the brush to the polished wood of the slip when a deep, resonant boom echoes through the palace complex. It is the sound of the midday drum. Instantly, as if a single invisible string connected all of you, every official in the hall stops. Brushes are gently wiped on cleaning cloths and placed back in their racks. Inkstones are covered with small wooden lids to prevent the ink from drying too quickly. Scrolls are partially rolled or weighted down. The synchronized silent cessation of activity is a spectacle of discipline. There is no chatter, no sign of relief, no stretching or yawning. The transition from work to not work is as formal and bloodless as everything else you do. The midday meal is not a communal affair. There is no dining hall filled with the pleasant clatter of bowls and the murmur of conversation. Such a thing would be inefficient, a breeding ground for gossip and unsanctioned opinions. Instead, you eat where you work, a solitary ritual repeated by dozens of men in the same large, quiet room. You reach into the sleeve of your robe and retrieve the small, cloth-wrapped parcel your wife handed you in the dim light of dawn. It feels small and dense in your hand. You carefully unfold the cloth on your desk. Inside sits a single, pale, round flatbread, It is made from millet flour, the staple grain of the northern plains around Chang'an. It is unleavened, and it has been cooked on a dry griddle this morning, so it is now cold and stiff. This is your sustenance. This is lunch. You break off a piece. The bread is dense and requires a good deal of chewing. The taste is exactly what you expect: nutty, earthy, and profoundly plain. There is no salt to liven it up, no honey to sweeten it, no flavorful filling. It is simply a vehicle for calories, a tool to keep the engine of your body running so that you can continue to perform your duties. Nutritional historians debate the adequacy of the average official's diet. From your perspective, sitting here on your mat, it is adequate in the barest sense of the word. It keeps you alive, but it offers no pleasure. Around you, the only sound is the soft, dry rustling of other officials unwrapping their own identical meals, and the quiet, rhythmic sound of chewing. No one speaks. No one even makes eye contact. To do so would be to invite interaction, and interaction is a deviation from the routine. You all sit on your mats on the floor. The chair has not yet become common furniture, and eat with a focused, methodical efficiency. You are a room full of ghosts, silently refueling. You take a sip of water from a small ceramic bottle to help wash down the dry bread. The water is tepid, it tastes of the clay vessel it's stored in. As you chew, your gaze drifts over your desk, the master copy of the edict, the one perfect copy you have completed, the half-finished second copy, the 9 pristine waiting stacks of blank slips, the freshly ground ink. Your work for the afternoon is laid out before you, a map of the tedium to come. This meal is not a break from it. It is merely a brief, silent pause in the middle of it. A comma in a sentence that goes on forever. You think of the farmer in Ba Commandery who grew this millet. You picture him in a wide, sun-drenched field, his back bent, his face weathered. His life is one of hard physical toil, governed by the seasons and the rain. Your life is one of soft mental toil, governed by the drum and the slow drip of the water clock. Who, you wonder, is the more fortunate? It's a pointless, dangerous thought, and you push it away. You finish the last piece of bread. You carefully fold the cloth it came in and tuck it back into your sleeve. You wipe your fingers on a separate, coarser cloth used for such things. The entire meal has taken perhaps 15 minutes. The break, however, lasts for a full hour. The remaining time is for quiet contemplation, which is a euphemism for staring into the middle distance and trying not to think about how you have to do this again tomorrow. Some officials close their eyes and meditate. Others review their morning's work. You simply kneel, your back straight, your hands resting on your lap, and let the great silent stillness of the hall wash over you. The silence is so profound you can almost hear the dust settling. You can hear your own heart beating a slow, steady, bureaucratic rhythm. Another deep boom from the midday drum rolls across the palace courtyards, a sound that is the exact inverse of the first. The pause is over. The great silent machine of Han administration is restarting. All around you, officials stir. Wooden lids are lifted from inkstones. Brushes are taken up. The gentle rustle of bamboo and silk fills the hall once more. You dip your brush into the still fresh ink. The bland, chalky taste of the millet bread lingers in your mouth. You fix your eyes on the master copy of the edict, find your place, and paint the next character. The afternoon stretches before you, a vast, featureless desert of work. The process you began this morning continues, uninterrupted by anything so trivial as thought or feeling. Rid, memorize, dip, paint. Your world shrinks to the tip of the brush, the grain of the wood, the shape of a character. Time dissolves. The sun, which had been casting long shadows from the east, now hangs directly overhead, bathing the hall in a brighter, flatter light. It begins its slow descent to the west, its passage marked only by the shifting angle of the light beams slicing through the dusty air. You finish the second copy. You begin the third. Your back aches from kneeling. A cramp develops in your calf, and you subtly shift your weight to ease it. You finish the third copy, then the fourth. The pile of completed scrolls to your left grows while the stack of blank slips to your right shrinks. Each finished scroll is a small victory, but each victory only brings you closer to the next identical battle. Finally, As the afternoon light begins to soften and turn golden, you paint the last character on the last slip of the 10th copy. You lay the brush down, your fingers stiff and stained with ink. A wave of something that isn't quite relief but is at least a cessation of active effort washes over you. It is done. 10 perfect copies of the imperial edict on sacrificial oxen. But it is not done. The copying was merely the first phase. Now comes the gauntlet. Director Pan materializes at your desk as if summoned by the completion of your task. He doesn't inspect the scrolls. He simply says, "Verify them." Then he vanishes back into the administrative ether. Verification is a task that makes the methodical work of copying feel like a wild creative frolic. It is a descent into a special kind of hell reserved for scribes and bureaucrats. The potential for a single overlooked error to cascade into a provincial governor performing a ritual with a dappled gray ox instead of an unblemished earth-yellow one is a matter of state security. Therefore, the accuracy must be absolute. Historians who study ancient logistics debate what the acceptable error rate was for such documents. In the Ministry of Ceremonies under Director Pan, the acceptable rate is 0. You begin the process. You take the master scroll and your first copy and unroll them side by side on the floor, weighting their ends to keep them flat. The 2 scrolls look identical, 2 perfect rows of black characters on pale wood. Your job is to prove they are not, or rather, to prove they are, by searching for flaws with the ferocity of a hunter. You take a thin, polished stick of ebony to use as a pointer, so the oils from your fingers don't mar the documents. You place the tip of the pointer under the first character of the master scroll. Then you move it to the first character of your copy. Your eyes flick back and forth. Is the number of strokes identical? Is the weighting of each stroke the same? Is the spacing between the elements of the character correct? It is. You move the pointer to the second character, and the third, character by character. Slip by slip, you crawl your way through the text. This is a task of pure, brutal attrition. Your eyes begin to ache. The characters, so clear and distinct moments ago, start to blur and dance. You see variations that aren't there, a phantom stroke, a missing dot. You have to stop, rub your eyes, and begin the line again. It's the world's most tedious game of spot the difference, and the only prize for winning is getting to do it all over again 9 more times. This is the front line in the war against scribal drift. The natural tendency for errors to creep in and multiply with each successive generation of a text. You are the sole guardian of textual purity. After 20 minutes of this agonizing microscopic inspection, you have verified 6 slips, only 41 to go for this copy. A profound weariness settles deep in your bones. You are no longer copying the words. You are no longer even reading them. You are just comparing shapes, an endless series of intricate, abstract patterns. And the afternoon is far from over. You are on the 3rd copy. Your pointer traces a line of characters describing the ceremonial arrangement of bronze vessels. The master scroll says one thing. Your copy says the same. Your eyes, however, are threatening rebellion. They have stared at so many identical, intricate shapes that the characters are beginning to lose their meaning, dissolving into a collection of abstract squiggles. You are no longer verifying a text. You are in a staring contest with the concept of language itself, and you are losing. It is at this moment of near sensory collapse that the junior scribe, Wei, approaches your desk once more. This time, he is not carrying a heavy bundle of scrolls. He holds a single, small, and rather sad-looking object. It is a wooden tablet, not a series of slips, and it is crudely fashioned. The wood is splintered at the edges, and the characters have been carved into it, rather than elegantly brushed, by an unsteady hand. It has been passed from courier to magistrate to provincial secretary, making a journey of 1,000 miles. And now it has landed here, in the Empire's beating heart, on the desk of a man who wishes it had gotten lost along the way. Wei bows. Master, Director Pan asked that you review this petition before it is archived. This is bureaucratic code for, this is not important enough for me, but it needs an official seal on it, so you deal with it. You take the tablet. It feels coarse and cheap in your hands, a stark contrast to the smooth, polished wood of the imperial edict you have been so painstakingly verifying. You begin to read. The petition is from the headman of a village called Willow Creek, in a distant mountainous province you can barely picture. The headman, with painstaking effort, has written to the great Ministry of Ceremonies for guidance on a matter of cosmic importance to his village. For as long as anyone can remember, they have made an annual offering to the spirit of the mountain that looms over their fields. This offering has always consisted of 3 clay pots of home-brewed beer and a woven basket of the first harvested millet. But a traveling Taoist mystic recently passed through and told them that the mountain spirit actually prefers rice wine and will be offended by beer. Their harvest has been poor for 2 years running. Is it because they have been using the wrong beverage? They humbly beseech the wisdom of the emperor's chosen experts to guide them, lest they face another year of famine for their ritualistic failures. You finish reading and sit there for a long moment, the rough tablet resting in your palm. For the first time all day, you are confronted with the raw, desperate reality of the people this vast bureaucracy is supposed to govern. These are not numbers in a tax ledger. This is a community in fear, looking to the heavens and by extension to you for an answer. Their belief in the spirits of the natural world, the local little traditions, is a universe away from the cold, codified state rites you administer. Anthropologists of ancient China will one day debate how much the formal state religion ever actually influenced the daily worship of the common people. Looking at this tablet, you feel the immense, unbridgeable gap between the two. Your job, the emperor's edict, the color of an ox, it all suddenly feels like an elaborate, pointless game happening in a different reality from the one where a villageant's fate hangs on the preference of a mountain spirit. You are tempted, for one wild second, to take a blank slip and write a reply, to tell them to use rice wine, or to stick with beer, or to simply reassure them that their sincerity is what matters. It would take you 10 minutes and might change the world for 100 people. But you cannot. It is not your function. There is no protocol for answering a petition about a local mountain spirit. To do so would be to create a precedent, to invite a flood of similar requests, to engage with a level of society that the Ministry of Ceremonies simply does not acknowledge. Your duty is not to the people of Willow Creek. Your duty is to the integrity of the imperial system. With a feeling that tastes like the millet bread from lunch, you pick up your brush. You dip it in the fine ink you ground for the emperor's words. On the back of the tablet, you paint a single neat character, kun. It means to file or to preserve. It is the correct, official, and utterly heartless thing to do. You then take your small, personal seal of carved jade, press it into the pot of thick red cinnabar paste, and stamp it next to the character. The petition is now processed. We takes it from you with another bow and carries it off to the archives, where it will be stored in a dusty room until it rots. The people of Willow Creek will never get their answer. You turn back to the 2 scrolls laid out before you. You pick up your ebony pointer. You find your place, the character for bronze, the character for vessel. Your brief, pointless detour into the world of human concerns is over. Back to the gauntlet. You are on the 5th copy, or perhaps it's the 6th. A creeping numbness has taken root behind your eyes. The world has been reduced to a narrow channel of black and beige. You just spent a full minute convinced you had found an error, a horizontal stroke in the character for music, that seemed a fraction of a millimeter too thick in your copy. You were reaching for your scraper knife, a grim sense of satisfaction rising when you realized it was an illusion, a trick of the fading afternoon light and your own exhausted mind. You are becoming unreliable. To continue alone is to risk missing a real error or worse, creating one by correcting a perfect copy. You need a fresh set of eyes, or in this case, a fresh voice. You quietly summon one of the junior scribes, a young man named Kai. He is new, recently assigned to the ministry from the Imperial Academy. He has that telltale sheen of a scholar who has spent his youth memorizing the classics but has not yet had his spirit systematically crushed by the realities of their application. He practically trembles with a desire to please. Kai, you say, your voice a low rasp. I require your assistance. You will read from the master scroll. I will follow in the copy. Read slowly. Read clearly. Do not deviate by a single sound. Yes, esteemed master, he says, his bow so deep his forehead nearly touches his knees. You set up the new system. You sit with the copy before you, your ebony pointer ready. Kai kneels beside the master scroll, which you have unrolled for him. Historians of labor still debate the master-apprentice dynamics within the Han bureaucracy, whether they were strictly professional relationships or carried deeper, more personal obligations. Right now, your relationship with Kai is purely functional. He is a tool to help you finish this task. Begin, you command. Kai clears his throat and starts to read. His voice is a clear, high tenor, but he pitches it into the required monotonous drone for official recitation. The sacred altar shall face the south, its dimensions conforming to the celestial numbers. You follow along with your pointer, your eyes scanning your own calligraphy. Character for character, his voice matches the shapes on your slips. It is a slow, hypnotic process. The drone of his voice, the rhythmic tap of your pointer, the silent passage of time. For a while, it works. His voice acts as an anchor, keeping your weary mind from drifting. You get through one entire scroll this way. It is agonizingly slow, but it is thorough. You are halfway through the 7th copy, deep in a passage listing the prescribed sacrificial implements. The list is long, technical, and mind-numbing. 1 jade disc of the Bai type, 7 bronze tripods of the Ding design, 12 bolts of undyed silk, 2 ceremonial ladles. Kai's voice drones on and on. Then it happens. 1 set of lacquered ceremonial houses. You stop. Your pointer freezes mid-character. The word in your copy, the word in the master scroll, is Hu, meaning marquee, or in this context, the small ancestral tablets for nobles to be used in the ceremony. The word Kai has just said is Ma, meaning horse. The characters look vaguely similar if you are tired or careless, sharing a few common strokes, but one is an ancestral tablet and the other is a large hay-eating animal. The difference is, to put it mildly, significant. A flash of hot anger, the first real emotion you've felt all afternoon, shoots through you. You slam your pointer down on the desk. The sharp crack of ebony on wood echoes in the quiet hall. Kai jumps, his reading cut off mid-syllable. His eyes are wide with terror. Master, read that slip again, you say, your voice dangerously quiet. He looks down, his face pale. He reads, his voice now trembling slightly. 1 set of lacquered ceremonial tablets. He has seen his mistake. You let the silence hang in the air for a moment. Kai, you say slowly, if this ministry were to issue an edict instructing the governor of Shu to place 12 horses on the sacrificial altar, what do you imagine would happen? Master, I apologize. An error in a tax ledger is a matter of accounting. You continue, your voice cold and precise. An error in an imperial edict is a matter of state. It undermines the authority of the Son of Heaven. It creates chaos. Your single moment of inattention could have made the entire empire a laughingstock. You make him go back to the beginning of the entire scroll and start his recitation over. The afternoon is already dying and now you have lost precious time. Kai's voice, when he begins again, is tight with fear. He will not make another mistake today. But the interruption, the flash of anger, the tedious necessity of correcting a subordinate, it is just another layer of grit in the gears of a day already defined by it. It is exhausting. And you still have 3 more copies to verify. The work resumes. Kai's voice is now a tight, nervous thread of sound. He enunciates every character with the exaggerated clarity of a man walking through a field he knows is full of snakes. Your pointer taps along, but the rhythm is gone. The trust is gone. Every word he says you double-check with a fierce, weary scrutiny. The process, which was already glacial, has now slowed to the pace of a dying snail. The sun has continued its journey west, and the light in the hall is now a deep, buttery gold, the color of evening, the color of freedom. But the end of the day is still a long way off. Your focus begins to fray. The characters on the page blur into a meaningless mesh. Kai's voice fades into a background hum. A new sound forces its way into your consciousness. It has been there all day, a quiet, constant metronome, but you have only now become aware of it. Drip, Drip, drip. It is the sound of the clepsydra, the great water clock in the far corner of the hall. It is a magnificent, cruel piece of engineering, a multi-tiered bronze contraption that is the ultimate arbiter of your day. A large reservoir at the top, constantly refilled by a silent attendant, leaks water at a steady, controlled rate into a second vessel, and then a third, a system designed to keep the pressure constant. Historians of science will one day debate the exact accuracy of these devices, but for you, its accuracy is absolute and tyrannical. From the final vessel, the water drips into a tall, cylindrical container. Inside this container is a copper float, attached to which is a long marked rod that rises as the water level does. The characters inscribed on this rod, visible through a slot in the container's side, tell the time. The day is divided into 100 ki, or quarters, and the slow, inexorable rise of that rod is the only thing that matters. Drip, drip, drip. Each drop of water lands with a soft, resonant plink. It is the loneliest sound in the world. Each drop is a tiny hammer, striking a tiny bronze bell, marking another moment of your life that has been consumed by this room, by this task. You find your eyes leaving the scroll and fixing on the clock. You watch the small, steady stream of water fall. You can't see the float from here, but you can imagine it. You can picture its microscopic, relentless ascent. It is the hero of a story in which you are merely a passive observer. Its only goal is to reach the mark that indicates the 9th hour, the time of the evening drum, the time you can go home. And its progress is agonizing. Kai is still reading. The ceremonial cap must be fastened with a pin of polished jade. Drip. The sash must be of the 5 prescribed colors. Drip. The slippers must be woven from the finest silk thread. Drip. The 2 streams of sound, Kai's droning voice and the clock's steady weeping, merge into a single cohesive instrument of torture. It is a lullaby of absolute despair. Your mind starts to drift on the rhythm. How many drops of water have fallen since you became an official? Millions? Billions? Is there a god of water clocks? A spirit who counts every drop and weighs it against the sum of a man's life? You imagine a vast, celestial abacus, where each drop is a bead slid from one side to the other, counting down your mortal existence. It's a terrifying, unproductive thought, but it is more interesting than the prescribed colors of a ceremonial sash. You look around the hall. Every other official is bent over his work, a field of dark-robed statues, but you know they can all hear it too. The drip, the slow, steady erosion of the day. It is the shared, unspoken secret of this room. Everyone is waiting. Everyone is listening to the clock. They are all, like you, prisoners of the drip, waiting for the final drop that will signal their release. For now there is nothing to do but endure it. You force your gaze back to the bamboo scroll, back to the endless columns of black ink. Kai has reached the end of a slip and is waiting for you. You nod. He begins the next one. The pointer taps. The voice drones. The water drips. The afternoon wears on. You are nearing the end of the 8th copy. Kai, chastened and hyper-focused, has not made another error. His voice has become a seamless part of the room's dreary soundscape, blending with the drip of the clepsydra and the distant rustle of bamboo. You are in a state of suspended animation, your mind a placid lake of boredom. Then Kai reads a line that sends a small, unsettling ripple across that lake. The primary offering shall be made on the 3rd day following the winter solstice, precisely at the Chen-shi, the hour of the dragon, roughly 2 hours in the early morning. Your pointer stops. You are certain Kai has read it correctly. You look at your copy and the master scroll. The characters are clear, but the date feels wrong. Not obviously wrong, but wrong in a deep, unsettling, bureaucratic way. A memory surfaces, a fragment from a dry memo that circulated weeks ago. You hold up a hand, silencing Kai. You beckon to an older official at a desk across the aisle. This is Master Guan, a man who has been in the Ministry of Ceremony since before you were born. His robes are frayed, his beard is thin and white, and his entire life has been dedicated to the study of the imperial calendar. If anyone would know, It is he. He shuffles over, his expression one of weary curiosity. "What is it?" he whispers, his voice like the rustle of dry leaves. You point to the line in the edict. "Master Guan, I seem to recall a directive from the Imperial Observatory concerning this year's solstice calculation. A minor adjustment. A quarter of a key, I believe." Master Guan leans in, his old eyes squinting at the characters. The Han court follows the Taichu calendar, a complex lunisolar system that is a marvel of its age, but it is not perfect. It drifts. Against the true unrelenting cycle of the sun, it slowly falls out of sync. For the farmers, this means little. For the state, whose legitimacy rests on its ability to harmonize heaven, earth, and man, this drift is a cosmic crisis in slow motion. Correctly timing the great sacrifices is essential to ensuring the proper flow of Qi, the vital energy of the universe. "Ah, yes," Master Guan says, stroking his thin beard. "The astronomers have been arguing about that for months. The new calculations are, technically, more accurate. This is the meeting. It is not in a grand hall, but here, in a hushed impromptu conference between two desks, surrounded by the ghosts of 1,000 forgotten rituals. This is the debate. It is not a fiery oratorical contest, but a whispered exchange about a potential time discrepancy of about 4 minutes. So, you press. This edict, which must have been drafted before the final directive was issued, specifies a time based on the old calendar. Is it not, therefore, incorrect? Master Guan gives you a look that is both pitying and profound. "What is correct?" he murmurs. "Is it the new, precise but unsanctioned time from the astronomers? Or is it the traditional, established, and imperially decreed time written on this scroll?" Historians of astronomy still debate how quickly such calendrical reforms were ever truly implemented. The observatory proposes, but the Imperial Secretariat disposes. And they have disposed this. He taps the master scroll with a long, bony finger. The dilemma is exquisite in its bureaucratic perfection. To flag the potential error would be to halt the entire process. It would require sending a query back to the Secretariat, delaying the distribution of the edict for days, and inviting the volcanic wrath of Director Pan for failing to complete your task. To ignore it would be to knowingly reproduce a document that commands the entire empire to perform its most sacred ritual at what might be, from heaven's point of view, the wrong time. The fate of the harvest, the stability of the dynasty, could theoretically rest on this 4-minute rounding error. Our function, Master Guan says, his voice a final, gentle verdict, is to be a faithful mirror. We do not interpret. We do not amend. We reflect what we are given. The edict is the edict. He gives you a slow, commiserating nod, shuffles back to his desk, and resumes his own work. The meeting is over. The debate has been lost, or rather, it was never allowed to be won. The system has protected itself. You look at the line of text, now imbued with a faint aura of cosmic absurdity. You are spending the last hours of your day painstakingly creating 9 more copies of a document you now know to be flawed. A deep internal sense of futility settles over you. You take a slow breath. You nod to Kai. "Continue." He clears his throat and begins to read again. The pointer taps. The voice drones. The water drips. Nothing has changed, and yet everything feels just a little bit more pointless than it did before. The verification is finally, mercifully complete. Kai reads the final character of the 10th copy, his voice cracking with fatigue and relief. You match it to the master scroll, and with a soft exhalation of breath, you lower your ebony pointer for the last time. The gauntlet has been run. You nod curtly at Kai, a gesture that is both a dismissal and a microscopic acknowledgement of a job adequately, if not perfectly done. He bows so low he nearly topples over and practically flees, desperate to escape your presence before you can find another task for him. You are alone again with your work. 10 perfect verified copies of the Imperial Edict lie in neat stacks on the floor around you. An entire day's labor, an entire forest of bamboo, an entire ocean of ink, and now, the final step, processing. The scrolls cannot be sent out as they are. They must be packaged, secured, and marked with the unimpeachable authority of the state. First, you roll each one back into a tight, dense scroll. The bamboo slips clatter softly as you work, a sound you have come to associate with the very essence of your profession. You take care to align the edges perfectly, creating a neat, cylindrical bundle. Once rolled, you take a length of official yellow silk cord and tie it around the scroll's middle. The knot is not a simple one. It is a specific, complex knot prescribed by regulations, one that is difficult to tie and even more difficult to untie without showing evidence of tampering. Your fingers, nimble from a lifetime of brushwork, perform the intricate loops and pulls automatically. 10 scrolls, 10 identical knots. As you work, your mind drifts to the sheer scale of the paperwork that holds the empire together. Your 10 scrolls are but a single drop in a ceaseless river of official correspondence. You think of the reports from the state monopolies on salt and iron, vast mountains of bamboo detailing production quotas, tax revenues, and shipping manifests, all flowing into the Ministry of Finance. Compared to that, your work on ceremonial timing seems almost quaint. The entire empire is stitched together with ink and string. Next, you prepare the labels. You take 10 small rectangular wooden tags, each with a hole drilled in one end. On each, you write the destination. One for the governor of Jiaoji in the distant south, one for the protectorate of the western regions, one for the administrator of the capital province. 10 scrolls, 10 destinations, 10 chances for a courier to get lost. Now, for the most critical and final act, the sealing. You retrieve a small, heavy bronze box from a locked cabinet. Inside, nestled in silk lining, are the official seals of the department. They are heavy, square blocks of bronze, each with a handle carved in the shape of a tortoise, a symbol of longevity and permanence. You select the one that reads Ministry of Ceremonies, Office of Imperial Rites. You also fetch a small pot of fengni, or sealing clay. Archaeologists who have studied surviving examples of these seals will one day debate the exact composition of this reddish-brown muck, whether it was simple river mud or a specialized compound with binders to help it dry hard. All you know is that it is damp, smells of earth, and is the ultimate guarantor of authenticity. You take the first scroll. Over the complex silk knot, you press a lump of the wet clay, forming a small flat disc. Then you take the bronze seal. You hold it in your hand, feeling its weight, its cold, hard authority. You take a breath, center yourself, and press the seal firmly and evenly into the clay. You hold it for a 3 count, then lift it straight up. The result is a perfect sharp-edged impression of the characters in the soft clay. It is a moment of deep, if brief, professional satisfaction. It is clean. It is official. It is done. You set the first scroll aside carefully so the clay can dry and move to the next. Lather, rinse, repeat. Or rather, tie, tag, press, seal. Your actions become mechanical, precise, and devoid of thought. You are a human assembly line for the products of the bureaucracy. Tie, tag, press, seal. With each impression, you feel a pang of the irony from your earlier debate with Master Guan. You are stamping a seal of ultimate authority onto a document you know is based on a flawed premise, a celestial timing that is off by a crucial few minutes. You are sealing in the mistake, giving it the full, unassailable power of the state. Tie, tag, press, seal. The pile of finished, sealed scrolls grows. The late afternoon sun casts long, distorted shadows across the hall. The water clock continues its relentless, quiet weeping. You have become an automaton, a drone whose only function is the application of the correct seal with robotic precision. One more to go. The 10 scrolls are laid out in a neat row, their clay seals slowly hardening from a damp brown to a pale, dry terracotta. The day's great labor is finally, truly finished. A profound exhaustion, bone-deep and complete, settles upon you. You begin the small final acts of your day. Cleaning your inkstone, washing your brushes, tidying the surface of your desk. All you want is to hear the evening drum, to begin the long walk home, to leave this room and its suffocating silence behind. It is precisely at this moment of anticipated release that Director Pan appears. He does not approach your desk, but stands in the aisle, forcing you to rise and turn to him. He gestures with his chin toward the floor beside your desk, at the messy, forgotten pile of bamboo slips tied with hemp cord. "The tax registers from Ba Commandery," he says. His voice is flat, devoid of inflection. "Ensure they are handled with appropriate diligence before the records are archived." And then he walks away. You stand there motionless, replaying the sentence in your mind. It is a masterpiece of deliberate ambiguity, a verbal trap laid with exquisite care. This is the dark art of Han administration, a subtle game that goes beyond the written rules of the legalists and into the murky world of personalities and power. Historians will debate whether the bureaucracy ran on merit or patronage, on clear laws or on the unstated whims of powerful men. You, standing here with this vague directive hanging in the air, know the answer. You are left to decipher his intent, and a wrong interpretation could have consequences. What precisely does handled mean? Does it mean you must personally finish the verification you started this morning? That would take another 2 hours at least. It would mean staying long after the evening drum, working by the foul, sputtering light of an oil lamp. Or does handled mean simply to process it? To bundle it up and send it to the archives as is with the work half done? That seems too close to dereliction of duty. And what of appropriate diligence? An impossibly subjective term. Does it mean the painstaking, character-by-character search for every last error? Or does it mean the swift, efficient clearing of a task from the docket? They are mutually exclusive. This is the genius of Director Pan. By leaving the order open to interpretation, he has shifted all responsibility to you. If you stay late and finish it, he can later remark that you lack the ability to delegate efficiently. If you delegate it, and an error is later found, he can claim your supervision was not diligent enough. He has given you an order that cannot be correctly followed, only survived. It's the bureaucratic equivalent of being told to nail water to a wall. You squat down and look at the pile of scrolls from Ba Commandery, the work that began your day, now returned to haunt its end. You run through the scenarios in your head. Your goal is not to impress. Your goal is to become invisible, to attract no blame. After a moment of tense calculation, you arrive at the only logical, defensible solution: create a paper trail. You will not finish the task yourself. That would be foolishly heroic. Instead, you take a fresh wooden tablet, a small, reusable one, meant for internal memos. You dip your brush one last time and begin to write. You compose a brief formal summary. You state that you, at the direction of Director Pan, commenced verification of the Ba Commandery tax registers. You note the exact number of scrolls reviewed and the precise number of errors found and corrected. You then state that the remainder of the task requires completion. Then, you take a second tablet. This one is addressed to the junior scribe, Kai. You write a clear, direct order. You are instructed to complete the verification of the remaining Ba Commandery tax registers. This is to be your first priority tomorrow. Report any and all discrepancies directly to me. You have interpreted handled as managed. You have demonstrated diligence by summarizing the work and creating a forward plan. You have delegated the remaining labor, but have retained oversight, thus ensuring your own continued involvement. You have passed the buck, but you have done so in such a way that it looks like responsible management. You neatly stack the unverified scrolls, place your summary on top, and put the directive for Kai right on top of that. You have transformed a vague, threatening directive into a tidy, documented, and delegated task for someone else. It is a minor masterpiece of administrative self-preservation. You place the bundle on the corner of your desk for the morning. The water clock drips. The sun is nearly gone. You have successfully navigated the final trap of the day. Now, all that is left is the waiting. Your work is done, truly done this time. The 10 sealed edicts are ready for dispatch. The Ba Commandery problem has been neatly packaged and delegated. Your desk is clean, your brushes are washed, your inkstone is covered. There is nothing left to do. And yet, you cannot leave. The day is not officially over until the evening drum sounds. So you kneel on your mat, your posture still formally erect, and you wait. The hall is quieter now. A few other officials have also finished their tasks and have joined you in this silent, patient vigil. The air is heavy with the scent of cooling ink and the faint oily smoke from the lamps that attendants have begun to light as the last of the sun's glow fades from the high windows. Your mind, after a full day of forced, narrow concentration, is a vast, empty plain. There is nothing to focus on, so it begins to wander. Your gaze falls upon the surface of your desk. It is made of a dark, polished wood, its lacquer worn thin in patches from generations of use. In the flickering lamplight, the natural grain of the wood stands out in intricate, swirling patterns. A dark, winding line snakes its way from one corner to the other. Lighter whorls spread out from a knot in the wood like hills radiating from a central peak. You stare at the line and it ceases to be wood grain. It becomes a river, a long, meandering waterway flowing through a desolate landscape. Your mind, with nothing better to do, latches onto this image. You imagine yourself as a cartographer in the Ministry of War. You are given a map, drawn on a roll of fine yellow silk by a military scout just returned from the untamed southern frontier. Your task is not to survey or explore, but simply to copy it onto a more durable set of wooden tablets for the archives. You unroll the silk. It smells of camphor and long travel. On it is a depiction of a river no one in the capital has ever seen. The scout has given it a name, the Jade Serpent River. It flows through a mountain range he has labeled the Sleeping Tiger Peaks. You see the standardized symbols, a thick, wavy line for the river, a series of sharp zigzags for the mountains, a small square for a remote garrison town. Your job in this reverie is to reproduce this abstraction. You take a fine brush and meticulously trace the path of the Jade Serpent River. You have no idea of its true width or depth. You do not know the sound it makes as it flows over rocks, or the color of its water. It is simply a line on a piece of silk, a line you are now transferring to a piece of wood. It is a geographical exercise in pure representation, completely divorced from reality. You paint the zigzags of the Sleeping Tiger Peaks. You have no concept of their height, of the trees that grow on their slopes, or the mist that clings to their summits. They are just shapes. This is what it feels like, you realize. This is the truth of your own work. When you verified the grain tax for Ba Commandery, you were not dealing with grain. You were copying symbols that represented grain. When you copied the edict, you were not scheduling a sacred event. You were reproducing a set of characters that described the idea of a sacred event. Your entire life is spent here in this dimly lit hall, meticulously tracing the maps of other people's realities. You are a cartographer of abstractions. The empire itself, from this vantage point, is not a living thing of 60 million souls, of farms and cities and rivers. It is a vast, intricate map, and your role is to ensure that the lines on your copy are identical to the lines on the master copy. Historians will one day marvel at the maps found in tombs like Mawangdui, debating whether they were for military, administrative, or spiritual purposes. You know, in this moment of weary clarity, that they were for all three. They were attempts to impose order on a world that is fundamentally chaotic, to turn the messy, unpredictable flow of a real river into a single, neat, controllable line. The line in the grain of your desk stares back at you. It is just a pattern in a piece of wood. The Jade Serpent River is not real. You have not left your mat. You are still waiting. The water clock drips. Your reverie on the abstract nature of rivers and paperwork is broken by a subtle shift in the hall's atmosphere. A quiet, purposeful movement has begun. It is the beginning of the end. It is the final ritual of the day, the sealing of the dispatches. You watch as a junior scribe, Young Wei again, his brief moment of optimism from this morning now thoroughly eroded, carries a large, shallow wooden crate to a heavy table near the main doorway. He then begins to move through the hall, collecting the day's finished work from the various officials. He moves with a quiet deference, collecting a stack of wooden tablets from one desk, a single important-looking scroll from another. You see him approach your own desk and carefully pick up your 10 sealed edict copies. He adds them to his growing collection in the crate. Your entire day's labor, the focus of all your energy and frustration, is now just one more bundle among dozens, anonymous and absorbed into the collective output of the ministry. Once the crate is full, the main actor appears. He is a senior clerk named Feng, a man who holds the title of Keeper of the Seals. It is a position of immense trust and, you have always thought, of even more immense boredom. Feng is a man who seems to have been whittled down by routine until nothing but the barest essentials of a human being remain. He does not walk. He proceeds. He does not look. He inspects. He arrives at the table and stands before the crate of documents. This is his domain. For the next hour, he will perform a single, unvarying task. First, he unlocks a heavy, iron-bound chest with a bronze key he wears on a cord around his neck. From it, he removes the Great Seal of the Ministry. It is a massive block of solid bronze, far larger and heavier than the departmental seal you used, with a handle carved into the shape of a snarling tiger. To lose this seal would be a crime bordering on treason. Feng's work begins. He takes the first document from the crate, a report from Master Guan. He examines the personal clay seal on it, checking for cracks or imperfections. He then consults a master ledger, a huge scroll where every outgoing piece of correspondence is logged. He finds the entry for Master Guan's report and makes a tiny checkmark beside it with his brush. All is in order. He does not apply the Great Seal to the document itself. Instead, he places the report back in the crate. He does this again and again and again. He inspects every single seal, checks every single entry in the ledger. It is a slow, silent, and painstaking process of secondary verification. You watch him pick up one of your edict copies. He squints at the clay seal you so carefully impressed. He looks at the tag for the provincial governor. He turns to his ledger, his finger tracing a line. He makes his little mark. Your work has passed muster. You feel a flicker of something that is too tired to be pride. Only when every document in the crate has been individually checked against the ledger does he begin the final act. The crate is destined for the Imperial Courier Service, a network of relay stations that can move official documents with surprising speed. But it cannot be sent as an open box. A leather cover is placed over the crate and cinched tight with thick cords, all of which are fed through a single heavy bronze loop. Over this final central knot, Feng applies a huge glob of sealing clay. He takes up the Great Seal of the Ministry. He holds it with two hands, centering it over the clay. He pauses, a statue of bureaucratic finality. Then, with a firm, practiced grunt of effort, he presses the seal down. He holds it, his entire body weight leaning into it, ensuring a deep, perfect impression. He lifts it away. There in the clay is the tiger's snarling face and the characters that represent the full authority of your ministry. The day's work is now officially concluded, sealed, and ready to be absorbed into the vast logistical body of the empire. Logistics historians will someday debate the true efficiency of this system against the realities of weather and bandits. But from here, it looks implacable. Feng puts the Great Seal away, locks the chest, and makes a final notation in his ledger. His face is a blank mask. He has just performed the most critical act of institutional validation, and it has affected him no more than if he were simply stacking bricks. You watch him, and you feel a strange sense of calm. This is the ultimate state of your profession, the Great Seal of boredom. A final authoritative stamp placed upon a day of utter monotony. The crate of dispatches is gone, taken away by two junior clerks to be handed over to the Imperial couriers. The keeper of the seals has locked his great bronze tiger away and has melted back into the shadows of the hall. The final administrative act of the day is complete. All that remains is the silence. All that remains is the wait. You kneel on your mat, a statue of patience. Your mind, having nowhere else to go, drifts back to the corner of your desk. There sits the neatly bundled pile of scrolls from Ba Commandery, crowned with your memos, the summary of your partial work, and the directive for young Kai. Your last act of the day was to set up the first act of tomorrow. And with that thought, your mind, a creature of relentless habit, begins to prepare. Tomorrow morning, Kai will complete the verification and bring you his findings. You will then have to draft a summary for Director Pan. And so, in the deep, weary stillness of the waiting hall, you begin to mentally compose this report. The task is not to convey information in the clearest way possible. The task is to craft a document that is both perfectly accurate and profoundly uninteresting. A report for a superior should not inspire questions or invite scrutiny. Its ideal purpose is to be read, nodded at, and immediately forgotten. It is a shield, not a spear. You imagine the scenario. Kai, being a diligent if nervous young man, will find several more errors. Let's imagine he finds a dozen minor calculation mistakes, the 5 pecks of rice level of discrepancy that is common but tedious. But let's also imagine he finds one major issue. A village in the 3rd district, listed in the official census register, is completely absent from the tax roll. A serious omission. How do you report this? To write, "A village was found to be missing," is to invite disaster. It is stark. It is alarming. It implies incompetence on a grand scale, either from the provincial clerk or from your own ministry for not catching it sooner. It is language that creates work and assigns blame. You cannot use it. Instead, you begin to workshop the phraseology in your head. You must use the formal classical language, the wenyan, that is the lifeblood of this bureaucracy. The phrasing must be passive and impersonal. Not, "I found an error," but, "An error was noted." You try a sentence. Regarding the Ba Commandery tax registers for the 3rd quarter, a thorough verification, as ordered, was completed. Good. It starts by reminding Director Pan that this was his idea. Next, the minor errors. You can't ignore them, but you must frame them positively. You craft the line. The process confirmed the general accuracy of the register, while allowing for the rectification of several minor scribal variations to bring them into conformity with metropolitan accounting standards. This transforms a dozen mistakes into a successful act of quality control. The errors are no longer errors. They are variations. The correction is not a fix, it is an act of bringing into conformity. Now for the big one, the missing village. This requires the most delicate touch. You must report it, but you must simultaneously report its resolution, presenting a closed loop that requires no further action from him. You settle on this. A discrepancy between the household census and the submitted tax yields for the 3rd district was identified and reconciled. The accounts have been amended to reflect the complete data, and the matter is now concluded. It is a masterpiece of bureaucratic language. Discrepancy is a neutral, passionless word. Identified and reconciled presents the problem and solution in a single breath. The matter is now concluded are the 5 most beautiful words in the administrative vocabulary. They are a polite but firm request to leave you alone. Social historians might debate whether this kind of blame-avoidant language was a sign of a paranoid court culture or simply a professional shorthand. For you, it is a survival skill. You have the structure of your report. You will present it to Director Pan tomorrow on a single, concise wooden tablet. It will be true, it will be clear to another bureaucrat, and it will be so profoundly dull, so lacking in any narrative hook, that it will cause his eyes to glaze over almost instantly. It is the perfect report. Having composed it in your head, you feel a small measure of peace. You have neutralized tomorrow's first problem before it has even arrived. Having mentally settled tomorrow's first crisis, a measure of true calm descends upon you. There is nothing left to plan, nothing left to do. You are simply a man kneeling on a mat in a dimly lit room, waiting. The water clock continues its soft, steady weeping, but you have ceased to hear it as an instrument of torture. It is just a sound now, a quiet pulse in the growing stillness. As the last vestiges of daylight die outside, the discipline in the hall begins to soften at the edges. The rigid silence, enforced for hours by the pressures of work and hierarchy, starts to develop tiny hairline cracks. A man 2 rows over coughs, a dry, dusty sound. Someone else subtly stretches his legs, a soft pop of a knee joint echoing faintly, and then you hear it, the lowest of murmurs. A conversation has begun. It comes from your right, from the desks of Master Guan and another elderly official from the archives department, a man named Feng. They are leaning slightly towards each other, their heads close together, their voices hushed into a conspiratorial whisper that is nonetheless audible in the profound quiet. You do not mean to eavesdrop, but you have no choice. Their words drift over to you, carried on the still, oily air. And what is the subject of this first, daring breach of the day's silence? Are they whispering of the Emperor's health? Of the shifting fortunes of the great court factions? Of the latest news from the armies on the northern frontier? No, they are talking about the price of cinnabar. The merchants from Shu are hoarding it. Master Guan hisses, his voice a dry rustle. They claim the river transport was disrupted, but it's a lie. They are trying to drive up the price before the New Year ceremonies. Cinnabar, the bright red mercury ore that is ground into a powder and mixed with oil and silk strands to create the thick vermilion paste used for official seals. The very paste you use to stamp your 10 edicts, the paste the keeper of the seals used for the great seal of the ministry. This is the subject of their passionate, clandestine debate. The quality of the last government shipment was abysmal, Feng whispers back, his voice full of indignation. It was gritty and the color was closer to orange than true vermilion. It fades within a decade. A disgrace. You listen, your face a mask of polite indifference, your mind a wasteland of boredom. This is the high gossip of your world. This is the juicy, inside information that gets the blood pumping in the veins of senior bureaucrats. Economic historians will one day debate the complex interplay of state monopolies and private market forces on such valuable commodities. Guan and Feng are living that debate, one petty complaint at a time. They go on, their whispers weaving a thrilling saga of supply chains, purity standards, and the outrageous cost of high-grade mineral pigments. It is, you realize, the most boring conversation you have ever had the misfortune to overhear. It's like listening to two farmers argue about the price of dirt. But for them, it is everything. Their professional lives are so all-consuming, their identities so completely merged with their function, that the tools of their trade have become objects of intense passion. The quality of the red paste with which they stamp their authority upon the world is, for them, a matter of existential importance. You close your eyes for a moment. You think of the peasant from Willow Creek, worried about his mountain spirit and his failing crops. You think of the soldiers on the Great Wall, worried about nomadic raids. You think of merchants on the Silk Road, worried about bandits and sandstorms. And here, at the heart of the empire, the most senior and respected men in your ministry are worried about the texture of their ink pads. The conversation is a perfect miniature portrait of your life, of this entire building. It is a world where the symbol has become more important than the reality it represents. The stamp is more real than the document. The pigment is more real than the power it signifies. You are so deep inside the machine that you have all forgotten there is a world outside of it. The whispers continue, a soft, insistent drone about market prices and mineral grades. It is, you decide, the perfect sound to fall asleep to. The whispers about cinnabar prices have devolved into a technical argument about the best binding agents, donkey hide glue versus carp bladder gelatin. Your eyelids are heavy. Your mind is a calm gray sea. You are balanced on the knife's edge between wakefulness and a light, dreamless doze. You are waiting for the only sound in the world that matters. And then it comes, a deep, sonorous boom that vibrates through the wooden pillars of the hall and up through the floor mat into your very bones. It is the evening drum, struck in the city's central tower, its voice rolling out across the capital, a signal of release. It is the most beautiful sound you have ever heard. The effect is instantaneous. The hushed conversation between Guan and Feng cuts off mid-syllable. Every official in the room, as if animated by a single will, straightens their back. The day is over, but the performance is not. The exit must be as orderly and ritualized as the entrance. Social historians might argue whether these rigid daily ceremonies were about enforcing labor discipline or forging a shared professional identity. As you begin the intricate dance of departure, it feels like both and also like neither. It simply is. First, the final tidying. Though your desk is already clean, you perform the motions again, a final symbolic act of closure. You check that your brushes are secure in their holder. You ensure your inkstone cover is perfectly centered. You square the corners of the bamboo mat on which you sit. Around you, everyone is doing the same, a silent symphony of small, precise movements. Then the bows begin, a perfect reversal of the morning's choreography. The junior scribes, Kai and Wei and the others, are the first to rise. They stand, turn, and perform a deep bow to the senior officials in the hall. We take our leave, esteemed masters, they murmur in unison. You and the other senior scribes give them a collective, almost imperceptible nod. They are dismissed. They turn and file out of the hall, their youthful shoulders perhaps a little more slumped than they were this morning. Next, it is your turn. You and the other officials of your rank rise to your feet. The movement is stiff. Your legs, after so many hours of kneeling, are numb and tingling. You turn to the section heads and the more senior men like Master Guan. You perform your bow, not as deep as the juniors, but still profoundly respectful. We take our leave. They return the gesture with a shallower bow of their own. Finally, the entire remaining assembly, a group of 30 or so men, turns as one to face the far end of the hall. There, at his larger desk, sits Director Pan. He has not moved. He is still examining a scroll under the light of a single oil lamp. He has ignored the entire ritual up to this point, but now he looks up, his gaze sweeping across all of you. In the heavy, expectant silence, you all perform the last, deepest, and most formal bow of the day. Your back is a straight line, your hands clasped before you. It is a gesture of ultimate deference, the final acknowledgement of the hierarchy that has governed your every move since dawn. Director Pan stares at the collection of bent backs for a long moment. Then he gives a single, sharp nod. That is all. It is the only signal you need. The day is officially, finally, irrevocably over. You all rise and, without a single backward glance, turn and walk towards the doors. The exodus is silent and orderly. There is no triumphant chatter, no jostling to get out first. You are all too tired for that. You move with the measured, shuffling gait of men who have had their life force systematically drained from them over the course of 9 hours. You step out of the Ministry of Ceremonies and into the vast, dark courtyard of the Weiyang Palace. The air is cool and smells of night-blooming flowers and damp earth. Above, the sky is a deep, star-dusted indigo. The day of grinding, copying, verifying, and sealing is done. Now all that stands between you and your home is the long walk back through a city that is preparing to lock its gates against the night. You step out from the oppressive stillness of your office into the vast breathing darkness of the Weiyang Palace grounds. The air is cool on your face, a welcome shock after the stale, lamp-heated atmosphere of the hall. The sky is a sweep of deep violet, and the first stars are sharp, brilliant points of light. The silence here is different from the silence inside. It is alive. You can hear the chirping of crickets from the ornamental gardens and the distant, lonely call of a night bird. The long walk to the outer gates, which this morning was an intimidating journey into the heart of power, is now just a weary trudge towards escape. Your path is lit by lanterns hung at intervals along the covered walkways, their soft yellow glow creating pools of light, separated by long stretches of shadow. Your footsteps, and those of the dozens of other officials filing out of their own ministry buildings, make a soft, rhythmic shuffling sound that is absorbed by the immense space. It's the sound of a tired army in retreat. You pass the same grand audience halls and perfectly raked courtyards, but they look different at night. They seem larger, emptier, their architectural grandeur transformed into a kind of lonely melancholy. You pull the thin fabric of your robe a little tighter around you. The day's monotony, its endless procession of tiny, meaningless details, clings to you like a fine layer of loess dust. You can still see the faint afterimage of vertical black lines on bamboo when you close your eyes. You can feel the phantom weight of the bronze seal in your palm. The day is over, but it is not gone. At the eastern gate, the atmosphere is looser than it was at dawn. The guards are still on duty, but they stand in more relaxed postures, their halberds leaning against the wall. They watch the river of officials flow out into the city without the stern, scrutinizing gaze of the morning shift. You pass through the great archway, and the sounds and smells of the living city wash over you. Chang'an at dusk is a different creature from the silent sleeping city of the pre-dawn hours. The streets are bustling with people hurrying home. The air is thick with the scent of 1,000 cooking fires, millet, steamed greens, and somewhere, the rich, savory smell of roasting meat. Lanterns hang from the eaves of every house, casting a warm, flickering, chaotic light. The sound is a low hum of voices, of cartwheels creaking, of a mother calling her children's names, of a dog barking a welcome. but you cannot linger. The sound of the evening drum still echoes in your memory, and it was not just a signal of release, but also a warning. Soon a second set of drums will sound, and at that signal, the gates to every one of the city's 160 wards will be barred and locked for the night. To be caught outside your own ward after curfew is a serious offense. Social historians will debate whether this curfew was an oppressive tool of social control or a welcome guarantee of security. For you, it is simply a fact of life, and it means your weary trudge has a deadline. You walk faster now, your pace hurried. You join the throng of others making the same journey. You pass a street vendor selling hot, steaming meat buns from a bamboo basket, their fragrant aroma a momentary, painful temptation, but to stop would be to risk being late. The path of least resistance is the straightest line home. You see your colleagues ahead of you and behind you, dark, anonymous shapes in the crowded street, all moving with the same tired urgency. You are no longer officials of the Han court. You are just men trying to get home for dinner, racing against the paternalistic lock and key of the state you serve. The day began with a slow, solitary walk through a silent city, filled with the cold dread of the work to come. It ends with a hurried, crowded walk through a noisy city, filled with the bone-deep weariness of the work that is done. The dust of the day is still on you. You can only hope that a night's sleep will be enough to wash it away before you have to do it all again. You reach the gate to your modest home just as the watchman is preparing to close it. You exchange a familiar nod, and you slip through into the sanctuary of your own courtyard. The heavy wooden bar slides into place behind you with a solid, reassuring thunk. You are home. You are safe. The city, with its rules and its noise and its dust, is shut out for the night. Your wife greets you in the courtyard, her face serene in the lantern light. She takes your stiff outer robe and helps you into a softer, looser garment. Your two young children, already in their sleeping clothes, run to you and perform their small, clumsy bows, which you return with a gentle hand on their heads. These are the first moments of genuine, uncomplicated warmth you have felt since you last stood in this very spot at dawn. The evening meal is simple, but after a day of dry bread and lukewarm water, it feels like a banquet. There is a bowl of hot millet, a dish of steamed cabbage with a few precious drops of sesame oil, and a small portion of salted fish to share between you and your wife. You eat in a comfortable silence, the shared quiet of home a world away from the oppressive, formal silence of the ministry. Here, the silence is a balm, not a weapon. After the meal, you retire to your study. It is a small room, barely large enough for a desk, a few shelves of scrolls, and your sleeping mat. But it is your own. This is the time of day you reserve for yourself, the time to wash the residue of the bureaucracy from your mind. As a man of the scholar official class, it is not enough to be a competent administrator. One must be a cultivated gentleman. And so, you decide, you will attempt to compose a poem. You take out a small leftover strip of silk, a luxury you use sparingly for such private pursuits. You unroll your brush case and prepare a small amount of ink, the familiar motions now feeling restorative rather than tedious. Literary historians will one day debate whether the poetry of your era was a genuine expression of inner feeling or a performance of a cultural role. As you sit here, you genuinely crave a moment of connection with something beautiful, something other than work. You look out the open lattice window into your tiny courtyard. The moon is nearly full, a perfect luminous disk hanging in the indigo sky. It casts a silver light on the slender leaves of a single bamboo stalk that grows near the wall. This will be your subject, the moon and the bamboo, a classic timeless pairing. You take up your brush, your mind searching for the right words, the right images to capture the quiet beauty of the scene. You want to write of the moon's serene, eternal gaze. The silver plate of the moon offers its nightly verification. You stop. Verification, where did that come from? You shake your head, trying to clear the unwelcome word. It's a stain from the afternoon's long ordeal. You try again, focusing on the bamboo this time. You want to describe its elegant strength, its graceful form. The noble bamboo stalk, its righteous form, in full conformity with the established standards. The brush freezes in your hand. Conformity with established standards? That is a phrase from the report you mentally drafted for Director Pan. It has no place here, in a poem. A feeling of frustration begins to prick at your calm. You try to force it. You look back and forth between the moon and the bamboo, trying to see them as a poet would, not as a bureaucrat. A discrepancy is noted between the shadow and the leaf, a matter now reconciled by the wind. It's no use. The language of your profession has colonized your mind. The vocabulary of reports and regulations has become your default setting. The clear, precise, soulless words you use all day to impose order on the world have become the only words you have left to describe it. Your attempt to create a small piece of art, a poem for no one but yourself, has resulted in a grotesque hybrid, a failed audit of a moonlit night. With a soft sigh of defeat, you lay the brush down. You look at the nonsensical, bureaucratic lines you have written on the precious silk. The day's monotony, it turns out, does not just cling to you like dust that can be washed away. It has seeped into your very bones. It has reshaped the pathways of your thoughts. You have brought the office home with you, not in a bundle of scrolls, but in the very structure of your mind. You carefully roll up the silk scrap, the poem for no one, and put it away. Perhaps tomorrow will be different, but probably not. The frustration from your failed attempt at poetry fades, replaced by a familiar, comfortable emptiness. Art is difficult and unpredictable. Routine, on the other hand, is a reliable friend. You rise from your desk, the stiff silk of your aborted poem now hidden away, and begin the final necessary rituals of the evening. It is time to prepare for tomorrow. First, your clothes. You go to a wooden chest in the corner of your sleeping chamber and lift the lid. From it, you take out your uniform. It is, of course, identical to the one you just took off. The same dark brown outer robe, the same inner garments of hemp, the same long silk sash. You lay each piece out on top of the chest in the precise order you will need them in the pre-dawn darkness. The sash is coiled just so. The inner robe is folded with the collar open, ready to receive your head. There can be no fumbling in the morning, no wasted time. Every second saved in the morning is another second of blessed sleep. Next, you attend to the tools of your trade. You have a small woven case, a shuhei, where you keep your personal effects. You check its contents, your brush roll, your scraper knife, your personal seal of polished jade. You ensure they are all in their proper place. You are like a soldier inspecting his weapons before a battle, except your only enemy is inaccuracy, and the only casualty is time. Then you perform the most important practical task of the night. You trim the carbonized tip of the rushwick with your fingernail, a small but essential act to ensure a cleaner, brighter flame in the morning. Then you unstop the jug and slowly, carefully, pour the thick golden oil into the lamp's small reservoir, filling it almost to the brim. This single, simple act is a promise you make to the future. It is the act of oiling the great, relentless machine of your life for another cycle. Without this oil, without this light, the morning cannot begin. As you perform these small, methodical tasks, your mind prepares itself as well. You are not consciously planning or worrying. You are simply allowing the shape of tomorrow to settle into your thoughts, letting it become a known and accepted landscape. You think of the Ba Commandery scrolls waiting on your desk. You picture young Kai approaching you with his findings. You recall the precise, blame-deflecting phrases of the report you have already composed in your head. You see the new stacks of bamboo that will be waiting for your attention, the endless columns of characters, the familiar face of Director Pan. There is no anxiety in these thoughts. There is no dread. There is only a deep and bottomless resignation. This is the path. This is the shape of your days. Psychological historians of a future age might debate the mental effects of such extreme routinization, whether it was a comforting structure or a soul-crushing cage. For you, it is simply the air you breathe. You have meticulously prepared your clothes, your tools, and your lamp. And in doing so, you have prepared your mind. You have smoothed the way for another identical day, removing every possible obstacle to its smooth, monotonous unfolding. You place the refilled lamp back on your desk, ready for the morning. Everything is in its place. The house is quiet. Your family is asleep. The day is finally squeezed dry of all its duties and obligations. There is nothing left to do but surrender to the darkness, to the brief, empty pause between one identical day and the next. You extinguish the lamp, plunging your small study and the adjoining sleeping chamber into a deep, velvety blackness. You move through the familiar dark, your hands outstretched, until you find the low wooden platform of your bed. You untie the sash of your soft inner robe and slide under the coarse, heavy blanket. The straw-filled mat rustles beneath you. You exhale a long, slow breath, a sound that is half sigh, half groan. The physical weight of the day, the hours of kneeling, the tension in your neck and shoulders, finally releases its grip. For a moment, there is only the blissful emptiness of lying down, but the mind is not so easily stilled. As you lie there waiting for sleep to take you, the day begins to replay itself behind your closed eyelids. You see the faint, ghostly images of bamboo slips, endless columns of them, scrolling past like a phantom manuscript. You can feel the phantom sensation of a brush in your hand, the subtle drag of the hairs on a wooden surface. You hear the echoes of the day's sounds, the soft clatter of bamboo, the grating shh of the inkstone, the relentless, maddening drip, drip of the water clock. You try to push the thoughts away. You focus on the sound of your wife's gentle breathing from her own mat nearby. You listen to the sound of the wind moving through the real bamboo in your courtyard, but the phantoms of the office are persistent. They are the last lingering ghosts of your waking hours. You roll onto your side, pulling the blanket tighter, a gesture of retreat. Slowly, ever so slowly, the images begin to smear and dissolve. The sounds fade. The heavy anchor of fatigue pulls you down into the murky, welcome depths of sleep. But sleep is not an escape. It is merely a different kind of office. You find yourself standing in the great hall of the Ministry of Ceremonies. It is the same hall, but distorted by the strange logic of dreams. The ceiling is so high it is lost in shadow, and the rows of desks stretch out in every direction to an infinite horizon. And the bamboo slips. They are not in neat bundles. They are in mountains, colossal teetering piles that reach up into the darkness, threatening to collapse and bury you. You are at your desk, and a single, impossibly long bamboo scroll is unrolled before you. It flows off your desk and coils on the floor, stretching away into the gloom. It is the edict about the suburban sacrifices. Director Pan stands behind you, his face impassive, his presence a palpable weight. He does not speak, but you know your task. You must verify the scroll. You pick up your ebony pointer and look at the first character. But as you focus on it, the strokes begin to squirm and rearrange themselves. Like a nest of black worms, the character for heaven writhes and transforms into the character for horse. You look at Director Pan, a silent plea for help, but his face is unchanged. You look back at the slip, and now the entire line of text is flowing like liquid ink. The task is impossible. A wave of pure, dreamlike anxiety washes over you. This is the opposite of the serene Taoist ideal of Wu Wei, of effortless action. This is a nightmare of pure, fruitless, conscious effort. Early Han medical texts suggest dreams can be omens or journeys of the soul. You wonder if this is your soul eternal journey, proofreading a document that will not sit still. The dream shifts. Now you are grinding ink, but the inkstone is as large as a millstone and the inkstick is a heavy pillar of stone you can barely move. You grind and grind, your muscles screaming with effort, but the water in the well remains stubbornly clear. The dream shifts again. You are stamping documents with your seal, but the seal is made of soft clay, and it leaves no impression. You are trying to compose your poem about the moon, but every time you dip your brush, it comes up dry. You are in a world where every action is futile, where every task is a trap. It is not a dream of monsters or falling. It is a dream of absolute, unending bureaucratic incompetence. The characters squirm. The ink remains clear. The seal leaves no mark. This is the landscape of your subconscious. This is the sleep you have earned. You are trapped in the dream, stamping a mountain of documents with a seal made of water. The line of scrolls waiting for your attention does not shrink. It grows with every futile attempt you make. The anxiety is a physical pressure, a weight on your chest. You are failing at your ethereal task, and the silent judging face of Director Pan looms over you like a thundercloud. You press the watery seal down again and again, a Sisyphean punishment in an office of the damned. You are about to scream in frustration, a silent dream scream that will never come. And then you are saved by a sound. It is distant, but sharp and clear. A rooster somewhere in the waking city has cleared its throat and announced the coming of the dawn. It is the second rooster's crow of this long story, the sound that pierces the veil of your troubled sleep and pulls you, slowly and unwillingly, back to the surface. The infinite, frustrating hall of the ministry dissolves. The watery seal vanishes from your hand. You are on your mat under your blanket in the familiar, chilly darkness of your own room. For a brief, blissful moment, you are simply a body, floating in the gray space between sleep and wakefulness. But the rooster crows again, more insistently this time, and the reality of the day begins to coalesce around you. The dream of endless work fades, only to be replaced by the quiet, certain knowledge of endless work to come. There is no relief in this awakening. You feel a weariness that sleep has not touched, a fatigue that seems to have settled deep into the marrow of your bones. The window lattice is no longer black, but the same shade of deep, bruised gray it was yesterday morning. The air holds the same pre-dawn chill. You lie perfectly still, your eyes open in the dark. You know with a certainty that requires no thought exactly what is about to happen. You will push yourself up from this mat. You will feel the cold of the floor on your bare feet. You will wash your face with icy water. You will don the precise formal layers of your robe, the very ones you so carefully laid out just a few hours ago. You are a player in a drama that has only one act, performed on a continuous loop. Your work, as trivial and soul-crushing as it feels, is your small contribution to the grand cosmic order. Your accurate copying, your diligent verification, these are the tiny threads you weave into the vast brocade of the state. The emperor rules by the mandate of heaven, and that mandate is maintained by good governance, by order and harmony. And harmony, at its most fundamental level, is you, sitting at a desk, ensuring the numbers on a tax scroll are correct. The Han worldview of Ganyang suggests that your administrative perfection contributes to good harvests, while a single scribal error could, through sympathetic resonance, cause a minor earthquake 1,000 miles away. Historians might debate whether this belief ennobled the work or just added another layer of anxiety. For you, it mostly just means you can never, ever, relax. You think of the day ahead. Kai will arrive with the completed Ba Commandery verification. You will draft your carefully worded, perfectly bland report for Director Pan. A new set of scrolls will be placed on your desk. You will perform the morning rituals. You will grind your ink. You will eat your silent, tasteless lunch. You will watch the water clock drip. You will listen for the evening drum. The rooster crows a third time. A final non-negotiable summons. The day is here. It promises nothing new, nothing different. It offers only a perfect, soul-crushing repeat of the day that came before. With a soft, familiar groan of resignation that is swallowed by the silence of the house, you push yourself up. Time to begin. And so your day begins again, just as it did before, caught in the great, slow-turning wheel of duty and routine. But for you now, the story is over. Your own journey is ending for the night, and you can let the images of this quiet, monotonous life gently fade away. The endless bamboo slips can be allowed to roll themselves up and be stored in the deep, silent archives of your mind as you drift deeper into your own well-earned rest. Let the sounds of the Han capital dissolve into the soft, ambient hum of your own room. The distant crow of the rooster, the shuffle of slippers on a dusty road, the quiet scratch of a brush on wood. All these can soften and blur, becoming indistinct and unimportant, leaving only a profound sense of calm and stillness behind. There are no more reports to verify, no more seals to apply, no more tedious rituals to perform. Your work for the day is done, and that work is simply to rest, to let go, to allow the gentle tide of sleep to carry you away from the shore of wakefulness. The quiet official in our story is now on his long walk back to the palace, but you are not with him. You are here, safe and comfortable in your bed, with nothing required of you but to breathe, a slow, deep breath in, and a long, soft breath out. The gates of the city are closing, but the gates to your own peaceful slumber are wide open, inviting you into a place of quiet, dreamless repose. Let the story dissolve completely now. Let the last traces of it fade like ink in water, leaving only the peace of this present moment and the gentle promise of deep, restorative sleep. It is time to rest now. Just rest. End of script. Sweet dreams.